Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Welcome to another edition of Great Millstone Mailbag Extra. Comes to you through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai B'Shem Rakakwadash. All praises and glories due here for another edition of the Daily Edification, the Daily Exhortation. Now I'm going to call this video Sundown Towns. And it's based upon some information I found out about a couple of days ago. I was watching this show on the ID channel, and as a matter of fact, the actual video that I watched, I got it queued up here. I found it on YouTube, and it dealt with the subject of sundown towns, and it's just another example of the wickedness of Esau. You know, the shameful spewing that's coming out on his glory, you know, and that's according to according to the Holy Scripture. Matter of fact, let me just go to it. And this is just another example. You know, they got in the what is it, in the Declaration of Rights, or the Bill of Rights, speaks about injustice and liberty for all. Well, why do you have such a thing called sundown towns? And to this very day, you still have them. I'm speaking to you, Esau, you know, because you're the devil, man. You're a liar. You're the wicked, and you're the devil. Here it is right here, the book of Habakkuk 2:16. It says, "Thou art filled," speaking about Esau, you know, "thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou, and let thy foreskin be uncovered," meaning you're going to be exposed. You are going to be exposed. Let's get the book of Obadiah. It's the same thing the Apostle Paul said, you know, in 2 Thessalonians. He said that wicked be revealed. And the wicked is Esau, Malachi 1:4. Here's another scripture, Obadiah 1:6. "How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up?" And you're about to see an example of that in this video with the topic sundown towns. Okay? Let's go back to Habakkuk 2:16. "Thou art filled with shame for glory." So he's talking about you, Esau. "Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered," meaning you're exposed. "The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." So here's an example of it with this, and you don't hear Esau talking too much about this topic, sundown towns, because, you know, the majority of them are ashamed of it. As a matter of fact, I think that's one of the comments in this video here. But anyway, let me play it, and then you're going to get the definition of what this term sundown town means. Now, this guy who hosts the show, his name is Keith Beauchamp, and he's a you know, so-called black man. He's a Jake. He's an Israelite, and he's going into this topic called sundown town. So let's get into it.
It's a murder that remained unsolved for 45 years. A young woman hunted, stalked, stabbed, and left for dead.
She said, "Oh, please, let me in. I've been followed."
It was a blood-curdling scream.
Made the hairs on the back of our neck stand up.
And the town where it happened was notoriously a sundown town.
The meaning of a sundown town is that it's all white on purpose, that black folks cannot live there.
Used to be a sign says, "No niggers are allowed in this town after dark."
Chilling, to say the least.
Could there still be towns in America where African Americans are not welcome?
"Excuse me, but I'll have to ask you to leave. You can't bother the customers like this."
It makes me feel like I'm not wanted.
And will anyone ever be brought to justice for the murder of an innocent woman?
The man that done it is still walking the streets.
They said, yeah, they found a black guy murdered. I thought, oh.
So you believe there was a cover-up?
I'm just saying yes.
My name is Keith Beauchamp, and I investigate murders. I've dedicated my life to exposing the evils of racial injustice. This time, I'm investigating sundown towns. Towns where African Americans are not allowed to live in, no less be in after the sun had set. In 2011, while investigating the suspicious hanging death of Raynard Johnson of Kokomo, Mississippi for the Injustice Files, we stumbled across a small southern hamlet called Morgantown. There, I was repeatedly warned not to step foot in this town after dark because of the color of my skin. I later learned that Morgantown is a sundown town. Sundown towns were all-white communities where African Americans were not allowed to live or be in after dark. This method of exclusion was even held by an official policy or restrictive covenant. Sadly, African Americans were not the only ones impacted by the harassment or violent repercussions of being caught in these towns after dark. Native Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Jews often face the same discrimination.
You know, when they say Jews, the real Jews are the so-called Negroes. Because a lot of those sundown towns, they were run by so-called Jews. So that's basically bullshit. But the main people that were forbidden were so-called Negroes. Okay, so-called Negroes, so-called North American Indians, so-called Puerto Ricans, you know, so-called Latinos. You know, these were towns that after dark you couldn't be caught there, or else you could be murdered. Just like at the beginning of the show, they featured that woman, I forgot her name, that was murdered just because of the color of her skin, and she was in a sundown town and she didn't even know it. Okay, so this is another example of, like the scripture said, Habakkuk 2:16. Let's read it again. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Now let me give you an example. On this video, right? If you scroll down, there was a comment put by a so-called white woman. It is right here. Okay. Well, Herbie Hopkins. Maybe the one I read. Yeah, this was the one I read. It wasn't a so-called white woman. Salaki on that. It was sounds like a so-called white man. Herbie Hopkins. Thought it was a so-called white woman. Anyway, yet another, well, this makes it worse. The so-called white man. It says, yet another appalling chapter in human history. Stories like this make me feel ashamed to be white. Which you're not white, you're an Edomite, you're really red. But there's the point. It says, stories like this make me feel ashamed to be white. And this comment was put 3 years ago. You had 21 thumbs up, and that's the scripture right there. It says, Habakkuk 2:16, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. What's an example of that? The sundown town. Man, up until a couple of days ago, I never heard of that term. Okay? Let thy foreskin be uncovered. So the Lord is exposing you devils on every level, man. Let thy foreskin be uncovered, which is a metaphor for being exposed. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Shameful spewing. And I think this qualifies, you know, sundown town. You even had a woman who was murdered just because of the color of her skin. She wasn't doing any mischief. She was just walking through your town. And to this day, the individual who did it has never been brought to justice. I'm trying to get the picture of the woman. And this, which I'm going to put the link to this video so you brothers can watch it. In this video, the Beauchamp, you know, the one who hosts the show, he goes into the murder of this woman. And she was murdered simply for being, you know, dark skinned. Okay, simply for looking different. All because she was in an Edomite sundown town. Yeah, you devils, man. You're being exposed, man. Obadiah 1 and 6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? You know, Obadiah 1 and 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, and who's Jacob? We are. Okay, so-called Negroes all the way down to so-called Mexicans. For your violence against your brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. So that's what we're waiting for, man. We're waiting for you to be cut off forever. And it starts with Yahushua. When Yahushua comes, he's going to cut you off from your power. Then you're going to service for 1,000 years in slavery. Then you're going to be Obadiah, like Apostle El says it. You're going to be Obadiah 1 and 18. Let me read it right here. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau, that's you, for stubble. You're going to be cut off, man, forever. And they shall kindle in them and devour them. And we're going to do it, because that's why it says that's a metaphor for us setting you up to be put to death, man, to be put to extinction. Okay, there's going to be this great bonfire, which bonfire means good fire, and you're going to be in it. And that's why it says the house of Jacob shall be a fire and the house of Joseph a flame. That's a metaphor for us rounding you up and setting you on fire after you serve us for 1,000 years in slavery. Okay, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it. And you might say, well, why is that? Well, for examples like this, Sundown town. Okay, that's why. It's just one of many examples. Okay, so that's pretty much all I got to say. Like I said, I'm going to put the link to this video in the description box, and you brothers can make responses to it. Like I said, I learned a new term a couple of days ago. Sundown town. Yeah, take a bow, Esau. You're not looking too good. All your wickedness is coming out. All your shame is being seen. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel, and I'll see you in the next video.